All right, you guys, welcome. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to our final Agent Spotlight of the year. We've really enjoyed this series. You know at Choice that we just so strongly believe in fostering an environment of collaboration, and truly there's no better way to learn than from fellow agents who are thriving and have done what we are hoping to do and have lived the path that we are hoping to live. And it's all about kind of cherry picking what resonates and taking action and kind of implementing it in your own business in a way that fits you. And so we're going to do that today. Today, we're talking with Melissa Ragan. She's an absolutely incredible agent. Melissa joined Choice in just this year in August. She's been an agent since 2016. She's built a powerhouse team of agents, all while closing more than 66 million in her own career. What sets Melissa apart, though, is her commitment to leading with heart. She gives back to the community regularly, which we'll talk about today. She's scaled her business impressively, all while focusing on deep connections and staying grounded to what matters to her. So if you're looking for some inspiration, you're looking for some ideas for connection and fulfillment for going into the new year, this is definitely a conversation to be a part of. And props to you guys for showing up, because it's obvious that, you all are here. This is a great turnout. You're going to be ready to take action in the new year. So thank you for joining us today, Melissa, and thanks for sharing your insight and your time with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, well, and thank you for being so open. I know anytime we do these spotlights, obviously they're always exciting, but it can be a little intimidating to kind of let other people behind the curtain. So thanks for being open to that. You guys
Absolutely.
know how you guys know how I like to start these. I always like to give a little background because we all came from somewhere. I'd love for you, Melissa, to just kind of tell us where you were before you got into real estate. What was your previous life? What motivated you to get into the business, and kind of what was that threshold for making that decision?
Absolutely. So yeah, prior to joining the wonderful world of real estate, I was in hospitality sales. I also took about 7 years off to be a stay-at-home mom. But anyway, while I was in hospitality sales, it was actually after I had gone back to work from being a stay-at-home mom. Had gone through a really rough divorce, and I was a single mom of three kids at the time. And so I had a great job in hospitality sales. However, it was very limited as far as a check to check, raising three kids on your own. So I thought real estate is something that is very similar to what I do. I show hotels, I sell various hotels, negotiate rates with corporate companies. And anyway, I thought real estate, I could see that, the parallels there. So anyway, I started off initially going to night school and bombed royally, working in the days and then taking care of kids and trying to like stay awake for night school. It just didn't work out. So anyway, second time around, I passed that test, went on Saturdays and, got through it. So anyway, and then, yeah, I started real estate.
Yeah, and one thing that you shared with me in our pre-interview, and I hope it's okay if I share it here, with during that time you also remarried, and so it was kind of a conversation, right, of like, this is what I want to do, and obviously having familial support just so matters. So you had that going in. What was kind of your mindset in your days looking like when you first get into real estate? I think it can be really hard, especially coming from a corporate structure,
Yep.
to figure that out for yourself. You don't have anyone telling you what to do on a daily basis. And so it's up to you to decide. So I'd love to know what those days looked like and what your mentality was. Like, was it one of those things where you're like, well, let's just see what happens? Or was it, we have no option, this is going to work and this is what I'm going to do? I'd love to know that.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, those are great questions. So I will share first my first sale. Then, as you mentioned, I remarried. So I was renting a home in Cary with my three kids, and I was engaged. We had a very short 2-month engagement. So anyway, I let the landlord at the time know that, and I had just gotten my real estate license like 2 months prior to that, and I was still working at the hotel, and also carrying my real estate license until I could move to full time. So I told him, I said, hey, I just want to give you my notice. I'm, engaged, and, kids and I are going to move to Apex. And anyway, I said, but hey, I have my real estate license. So if you want me to help you sell this house, I'd be happy to. So it was great for that to be my first sale, because I was able to experience it the way that sellers experience it. I mean, I had three kids, they were ages two, like, at that time, I'm sorry, they were young, like 7, 9, and 13. And then I had a big, dog that barked all the time. So our house was, chaotic. So anyway, I had to go through the whole thing, declutter, garage sales and do the whole thing and move out for the weekend. It sold the house above ask. It was a great experience. And it was good to be able to have that first, foresight so that I could share others and feel their pain of what that looks like going through those steps. But anyway, then yes, we married and blended our families together. And so I went from 3 kids to 5. And they were, yeah, at that time, ages, I want to say 7 to 13, and just kind of staggered up. So yes, when I was able to go full time, which was just a few months after that, with the support of my husband, because you do need that to get started. It was crazy because I was letting my 3 kids finish their schooling out in Cary. Then I had, my 2 bonus kids in Apex, and I was going through 3 different schools for carpool for like 4 months. So anyway, it was nuts, but it was so good. And yeah, I just jumped right in. I will say and admit, I ended up, jumping in with a purchase of some Zillow leads. At that time, it did help me start my business because I did go in as an individual agent. And with the corporate structure, it did help me just kind of, just know naturally kind of like how to work the day, when I wasn't running around taking kids to and from school.
Yeah, that's so many great points there. First of all, I hadn't thought about that when we talked the other day about you saying that you had to help your landlord, but that's such a good perspective because I went through the sale of my property recently
Oh,
and I made a whole guide about it and I was like, dang, it's so funny how you do something all the time and then you go
right.
through it yourself and you see behind the curtain, you help all of these people and then you do it yourself and you're like, oh, actually, I have a whole new perspective on it. So it's great that that's how you started.
It
And
really was. It was perfect. I remember trying to enter everything in, first time in Triangle MLS, the listing, and like, what am I doing? What does this mean? What does that mean? It was
well,
great.
and also I love that you started with the list side. I think so many people going into the business get their
Yeah,
first buyer, right? So that's really
exactly.
cool. And also props to you for making the ask. I know sometimes we're so hesitant to do that, but you never just know. If you throw it out there, you're actually probably doing someone a favor if that's kind of the direction they were headed. They have a relationship with you. Why not start there? And I guess part of the reason I was bringing up the family stuff is, you got into it with obviously their support, but there's still life goes on. It's still a very busy schedule going to 3 schools. I think it's so easy for us to get stuck in the day to day and like we have so much to do running to showings and we also have to run to do this. But at the same time, a lot of us got into this business because of the flexibility it provides. And so although that's a lot to carpool, like it's such a blessing to have the ability to have a career that allows us that flexibility. So I love that you started with all that. And I too started my career with Zillow. I mean, they also hit me back recently. I'm like, well, look who's back, after raising all their prices and kicking all the agents out. But
I
that's a
know, right?
tangent for a different day.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. Those calls too. Funny. Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to pick up on that
But
another day for sure.
yeah. But so, headed from hospitality into real estate, obviously we are a sales-based industry, but really and truly we're a service-based industry. So I'm sure there's so much that translates. I'm curious from your perspective, someone who is so deeply entrenched in that community, was there anything very specifically that you feel translated the most? Is there anything that you think of on almost a daily basis or something that you thought of as you were getting into it where you're like, wow, this is such a mirror to like what I was doing? Or is there something that you felt the industry was lacking and from being in the service industry, you're like, I need to translate this. People need it.
Well, honestly, I mean, to your point, they're both service industries, like our job as, realtors is to be a fiduciary, right? And to, look after people's, best interest and, things of that nature and not for personal gain. And, same with the hotel industry, it's a service industry. It's all about making people feel welcome and, comfortable. And then, also from the business perspective of, trying to, just establish like, the prospecting was really good as far as, what you gained in that, realm. Like you didn't know who was the contact that you needed to talk to from, let's say, MetLife to structure a corporate, relationship. So you had to dig and you had to build those relationships. And yeah, I remember, even he's a great friend and he's actually even bought an investment property with us. So it just shows how these relationships just carry over and you keep them and, they're just amazing. But yeah, I mean, I remember he got the right invite people from MetLife. They came to the hotel. We did like this whole tour in the evening, wined and dined them. And next thing you know, we were, one of their preferred hotels. So yeah, I would say those skills definitely translate over. So you just have to get out of your comfort zone and, trying to meet people and talking to them and again, genuinely have an interest in them.
Absolutely. This conversation makes me think back to the chat we had with Libby Azzarello, and I can't think of the name of the class at this right now, but it's all about just creating like such small touches that pack such a punch. And in that, she talked about unreasonable hospitality, I think was the name of the book, but just how the Ritz-Carlton does all of these things of keeping track of their clients and down to like what temperature their thermostat is set on, right? And it sounds so silly, right? This isn't something we do in real estate, but in terms of what clients are wanting these days, I was listening to a podcast and recently, and they were talking about scaling intimacy, right? Like gone are the days of people just knowing that they are a number and just being honored to work with you, right? Like they need that personal connection. They want to know that you truly know them and that they're not just a number to you. And so taking that personal approach, not just building relationships for the sake of building them, but building them to truly know people, I think just matters so much in everyday life, but especially in our business. We
It really does. Well, yeah, I mean, speaking of that, that landlord that I helped, I've helped him probably with three other transactions and then was fortunate to help his daughter just last year and her husband. So, I mean, it really is, incredible how you really kind of become like an extension of a family, and they always come to our events and things like that. So it's great.
It's so cool how it ripples out. There's so, looking back years and years, you've got those people. Obviously, you help a ton, but then there's always those few that you're like, wow, I just really connected with these people, and this world really brought us together. So you had your first one. How did you, and you were working with Zillow, and you had a prospecting background. So obviously that helps in converting people and getting that appointment. But I'd love to know how your business started to ramp up and where it really started to take off, you feel. How far in do you think that was, and what was it a shift that happened, or did you, I don't know, tell us about kind of how that momentum built?
Yeah, because I know it's so different and so intriguing to hear everyone's, different perspectives and how it worked. So it did help with the Zillow leads. It was a leap of faith for me to, go with, okay, I, am not like starting off bringing in income, as we all know, we're all commission based. And, being a single mom and, a woman trying to like handle things, in that direction, I had some support from my mom, but I certainly did not want to be reliant on my husband. Like, no, so I wanted to really get on my feet and be able to, move forward in that direction. So Zillow was a leap of faith, to just start in like paying like 1,500 to 2,000 a month for these leads and, not having any income, but it did work, the first year. And, I felt that that was the direction to go. And those contacts that I made, I also, nurtured those and then they turn into other things. And then when I initially started real estate, it was with Weichert because it was near where I lived at the time and a mutual connection with a mentor that I had. And so we maintained a relationship because I had moved over to Keller Williams after that. And she would ask me when she would go out of town to take care of her Zillow leads and things like that. So it really was interesting how, that worked. But after about a year, I decided, you know what, I don't really need to continue, going with these Zillow leads anymore. I felt that the quality had, started to reduce and things like that. We all know the story. So I just, continue to do what I did and contact people and reach out to them. And, I would also meet people and just where I was, like, I met someone at the dentist and she saw me working on my laptop. We start talking and next thing I know, I'm helping her find a house. And, same with the pediatrician, I'm emailing the billing department and a sweet lady. And we started just chatting back and forth. And I just kind of like felt compelled to say, hey, if you have any real estate needs, let me know. And she writes back, I have needs, so there we go. So it just in so many ways, it's just not, just talking to people. I like people. So that's something I guess I enjoy.
Well, with Zillow leads too, I mean, or realtor leads, any internet leads of that sort, you have to get so comfortable with asking for the appointment because they clicked that button for a reason. That's all they really want is to get in that door. And so it's our job to just close for that appointment. And I think so often if we're just nurturing other leads, especially if we haven't come from that background, it feels like making that ask is too direct, when in reality, that is exactly why people are coming here. So that's a great foundation that,
Sure.
I started my business on internet leads and then went off on my own and that's all I'd known. So I did the same. And,
Say,
it
yeah.
definitely, same thing, right? Like I built a great foundation of clients and then stopped that and then just nurtured those clients. So no
Yep.
matter how you get them, it's all about staying in that relationship and not trying to, obviously you're forever trying to expand your reach. But I think sometimes it's easy to get caught up, especially if you've been doing internet leads for a long time, to get caught up in that cycle of like just looking for the next one. And don't be remiss, don't forget about the people that got you there and they
I
want
know.
relationships, right? The
So
other thing
true.
that made me think of when you're talking about the investment on a monthly basis, I purchased something recently that's like a retreat, and right, it was a lot of money. And I think it's not to say go out and spend fearlessly, right? But like I do think there's something to be said about like the radical responsibility that comes with taking a leap, like investing in yourself and saying like, I believe in myself enough to do this. I see the value in it. And I also know that I can do this. And I think there's a lot of smaller steps we can take, but sometimes it is on us to take that big leap. And I think a lot of times we look for outside resources to say like, no, you've made it far enough to do this, when in reality, like you have to be the one that makes that decision. So props to you for doing that and taking that jump, because that is a big investment, especially
Yeah,
when
it was
you're
very
waiting for that
daunting.
paycheck, you know?
I was doing the numbers. I'm like 0 and what 12, whatever, 1,500, 2,000. This math is not working out. I better make this work, but again, I will say, especially going through being a single mom and all of that, and then starting this business and everything else with the support of faith. I mean, it really always did help me get through
Yeah.
those times. Like, okay, just do it.
So I would love to kind of transition to talking about team stuff, but I don't quite know how to get us there because I want to talk about where you kind of maxed out. I think it's really
Oh,
important. I think all of us get to that point at some point where you're like, oh my gosh, obviously it's every agent's dream, right? You are thriving, you've got so much business, you've worked so hard for this moment. And yet we realize that we are human and we only have as many days as everyone else and we're ready to expand. So will you talk about like what was that threshold? Obviously, Zillow, I mean, that could be it, right? Zillow working a ton of buyer leads has you going around in circles sometimes. I was curious, when did you start to feel maxed out? Was it a feeling in your body? Was it a number in production? What was that for you?
well, that's a great question. So, you would think it would have worked out that way, it did not. So I think I was so accustomed to chaos and, just going and go, go, go. I just did it. However, this lovely lady sitting next to me, Emily Thomas, she and I happened to meet by chance at a boutique that she was the manager of, the marketing manager as well, Pink Magnolia. Yep, yep. And so anyway, we met there and anyway, helped it just progressed. She was getting married at the time, so we just had a connection. My sister owns a bridal shop, and so she was buying her dress there. And so we kept in touch and she, anyway, helped her fast forward buy her first home, with she and her now husband. And then, we kept in touch again. And then maybe a year later, was it a year later?
I think it was 2 years
2 years later. Okay.
later after I had moved over to real estate.
Okay, so yeah, she had left her previous position and she was working was it Berkshire Hathaway?
Berkshire Hathaway.
Yep, and she was assisting them with so many things and basically as an office manager and a million things. She can expand on that. But she unfortunately was in a car accident and decided, to not stay in that position. And she had reached out and she said, "Hey, would you like some help? I've got some real estate experience now." And I was like, here we go. So that's how it all started. And we started really small. We literally like 5 hours a week. And I realized how much she helped me and like, why hadn't I why didn't we do this sooner? So it was very organic. And then we progressed to now she pulls a 40-hour week and a 25-hour week. And she's now our, what we call director of operations. She helps with marketing, onboarding, with, new agents. And she'll have, when you want to have her expand on more about what she does for us, it's so much. But I will say that is when I realized the true appreciation of having some leverage. And then from there, it was another organic occurrence. So Emily Thomas, oftentimes you'll hear her nickname of MT, because we also had another Emily Barnard, and her nickname was MB. She and I were in pre-broker license class together and kept in touch. And she decided to stop working in property management and actually, really go into residential real estate. So she joined Keller Williams, and that's how our team was created. So the three OGs.
I love, sometimes you have a vision for your growth and you go ahead and map it out from the start. And then other times it just kind of falls in your lap. And I think that so often that's kind of the best way when it happens, right? And we
Oh,
talked about this kind of
yes.
shameless plug with Jesse Rivnack's interview. Obviously, I love all of these, but she kind of mentioned this too of like you find the right people and you just kind of make it happen, right? Like you just trust that I don't know what our path is. I know another one of our agents we interviewed said the same thing of like, they just need to be in my corner and you invest in the people and you just trust that what they bring to the table is just going to expand both of you. So definitely sounds like that's what happens here. It's just kind of divine timing, brought you together. So I know obviously all of your roles have evolved some for both of the Emilys. What were their initial roles with you, and then what are they now? I know you mentioned she's VP of Operations. Will you kind of break down some of the stuff that she did from you when she first started? I think that can be such a tangible next step for people. And I think when we think of growing a team, a lot of times our first thought is either a transaction coordinator or a buyer's agent. And so you stayed as an agent, you brought her on the admin side. Will you speak to what that is? And I guess also while I'm here, I want to just mention, I think so often people get in their own way in creating leverage and thinking that that means hiring someone full time. And while yes, that can be the case, let's not put words in other people's mouths. Like sometimes someone just needs a little bit of a side gig and they only have a few hours to invest, and that's actually what they want. So, will you speak to all of that?
Oh, sure. Well, so for MT, she has always been an integral part with marketing. So I'd say that's always been her like number one main. And then also as far as with the administrative side, she's really great at creating systems for organization and things like that. So she immediately started to just bring value of ideas of like, streamlining some organization things. She also just, helps too, even, with like, your inbox gets so insane. She's labeled and coded things and just helped to really like be able just to go straight to the things that need to be addressed. So we started off small, and she also has beautiful penmanship. I look like I write like a second grader. So she helped with like note cards and things like that, and client care. So, I would say client care, the marketing, and then, admin. So it was small. It started off like, really small. Do you remember some of the main things you did in the beginning?
Yeah, like I did like handwritten birthday cards, home anniversary
Yes.
cards. I started like a marketing plan for the social media. Really tried to grow our Instagram and provide value and engagement there. Um, and then also like I feel like I did a lot more lead gen then.
Oh, that is
Like
true.
I
You
did
did
a
help with
lot
lead
of
gen.
like I would go through our database and just like clean things up. Like if there was somebody that we didn't know, like I'd send Melissa a list and be like, who are these people? And she'd be like, like, I'm not sure. And so it's like just cleaning that up, like getting they didn't
Zillow,
like
right?
didn't have a name or didn't have a phone number, didn't have an email. It's like, okay, let's like make tags for these. Let's get this set up so that we can do lead gen and in an effective way. And then, prospecting, like whenever she'd have a listing or she'd sell, like I'd pull a list and we would send a mailer out, like just listed or just sold, or just like those types of things that like she needs to do, but it's not revenue generating for her to do it when she can be out in the community, like making connections and meeting with clients and growing her business.
I think when we think of growth, we often force it, right? Like we know we've reached that point and we're just desperate to find the help. And I think sometimes that looks like hiring an admin who is so incredibly talented, but they also don't have like the voice or the value or like the full spirit of the company or the team. And that can be hard. And I just look at what you were just saying, and it's so obvious that you were invested in your own way, but that you just so like on such a core level, you embodied everything that was here. And so obviously Melissa then very much trusted you to respond to those emails because you were able to encapsulate the voice of the team, which is so hard to find. And so I
Yeah.
think it's just another reminder to be patient, not rush it when you're trying to find the right person, because you can have someone managing your inbox and all they're doing is adding things to folders and you have no idea where they went, whereas someone else can be like, hey,
Right.
this is what we should do, or this is a system we should create. And also on the note of scaling, when we do find that maybe it's a virtual assistant, it's so easy to have them kind of task focused. And it's not easy to let go of the reins, but if we give people that permission, then they're able to really take a 1,000-foot view and give us an outside perspective and be like, hey, I know you're in the day to day, but actually, this is really what we should do to set ourselves up for not only right now, but where we want to be. And I think that's so hard to do, but creating the systems for where you want to be, not where you are right now, is so important. And it sounds like you were really able to do that. So awesome. I'm impressed.
It's a process. It's, I mean, I think part of it is like not being afraid to ask questions too. Because you don't always, when you first start, you want to make sure that you are on brand. So it's like sometimes when you're tasked with those things, it's a little daunting and you have to say like, hey, Melissa, like, how would you like me to respond? Like, is this something that sounds like on brand for you, or is this better? And then kind of figuring that out and being okay with things changing and, receiving feedback and feeling confident, I think are all really important things on the admin side of it.
Yeah. The podcast I was listening to recently, they were talking about, it was a VP of a big brand, and she was just talking about how she does not let her employees come to her with a problem unless they have 1 to 3 solutions. And so as you were saying that about the emails, I'm like, that's exactly what you were doing in a different way. It's like, here are the 2 options for how I would think we should respond. Which one do you like better? But
Well,
again, you taking those reins.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, so we just it'll be 5 years we've been working together last month.
Yeah.
Wow. So how has your team continued to grow since then? You brought on some admin people. Actually, I want to take a step back. I was thinking of, I keep meaning to mention this, but when we were talking before, you talked about the 3 of you, the 2 Emilys and you being in a conference room and just like bouncing ideas around. Will you
Oh my
talk
gosh.
about that for a second?
Oh my,
I was like, guys,
that was yeah. So all
it
this,
was like ADHD, like
oh,
in one room, like all of us
steroids.
just like needing, I don't know. It was crazy.
It was funny. Yes, we were in one of the conference rooms at the Keller Williams Elite at that time. And yeah, Emily had been in her position for maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
And then MB, decided to join. And, this is where too, like her joining the team, can you imagine a more beautiful situation? I'm like, I have a lead for you. It's one of my neighbors, and she wants to buy, she and her husband are, looking to buy a home for their daughter. And it's gonna be a cash sale. Her first showing, she shows them, she's placing an offer accepted, under contract. So that's our meeting. Like, oh my gosh, this is exciting. What do I do now? And just, freaking out. And so it was funny. So that was how our, first little meeting went. Just absolute insanity, but in the best way
In
possible.
the
Yeah.
best way.
Yeah, you guys are over there like teaching her how to write an offer, and Emily Thomas is like, what is our branding? And the only reason I bring that up is because I think first of all, as adults, I'm like, oh, what can we do to like tap back into that childhood excitement, right? And I think
Right.
sometimes just being in the right room with other people that are just so lit up, it
Yeah.
just fuels your soul. And sometimes that's being with coworkers, and sometimes that's just being like in a co-working space where you're all doing different things, but just being able to tap into other people's energy. So I just bring that up because obviously in real estate it can be very isolating, and we all work from home and stuff.
Yeah.
And simply being in the room with other people and having their energy can just fuel us in ways that build revenue down the road. So anyway, okay. So now I
Absolutely.
want to talk about your team. Where are you guys now? You've brought on since then some other agents that are producing. Will you tell us how many people you have and kind of where they came in to that growth cycle?
Absolutely. So yes, things have shifted since then and where we are now. So gosh, let's see. At that point then we progressed and we had Stacy, I believe he might be on the call, Potter. She also had joined, but that's actually fast forward. I guess let me back up a little bit. So we also had several ladies that ended up joining our team at that time. So I want to say we always tended to be around like 5, 6 of us total, right? Was that like
Yeah.
usually about 6? So about 4 agents, and then she and I at Keller Williams Elite. And anyway, great team. I definitely learned a lot as far as, growing a team. And again, the ladies, and again, no discrimination towards males. So it just happened to be that we were all female. But the ladies that did join, again, all relationships that I had, I wasn't hardcore recruiting. It just really happened in that direction. And I really enjoyed the mentorship factor. I did learn a lot too, as far as, growing a team. And so, and one thing I would say too that, I felt was important too is just like really focusing on the individual and their goals and then how they can excel in this industry, because not everyone's the same. I mean, I love networking and doing all that, and that's my thing, but someone else that may be like terrifying for them. So it's not going to be effective. So just, really like zoning in on that and trying to help each other. And then I did learn some of the things of making sure that you do interview people, because, even though like I have to say, I've been so blessed to be surrounded by people with those amazing soft skills that, are oftentimes, unteachable, right? However, your goals, even though it's not my goal, you don't have to sell, 10 million a year, 100 million a year. It's, it's based on you, but there is a minimum of, because you are feeding into these people. So I did learn a few things too along the way. I had one great agent and she and I were good friends. However, she wanted to travel the world. So that didn't work, so I realized, there is some, minimum thresholds here, obviously. And then, as far as where you look to go and grow, we're here, we'll have your back. And the importance of family, because I understand it ebbs and flows, depending on what's going on in your life. So anyway, so we really built some great systems throughout that process. And then I learned through Keller Williams. I loved the Keller Williams atmosphere as far as the, what they taught with the trainings and things like that. But I was at a threshold where I really wasn't utilizing what they had, and it wasn't sitting well with me with my team members. I didn't feel like their take home as far as, what they were making with some of the set split structures, it didn't feel right to me. So I decided to again take another leap of faith and start my own firm. So that was before joining Choice. So then we kind of shifted again. And so it was the three OGs, and then Stacy, who is also with Choice now, she ended up joining us as well. And then Lexi, which she and I have worked together for a while, and that is Stacy's daughter. And she's great with new construction. Her husband's a custom builder. So anyway, and we, worked together, Ragan Realty firm. And then I was approaching my renewals and realized that this is really a lot. Okay. I am broker in charge. I am also compliance. Oh, and let me make sure I get all those ACH deposits to everybody on time. And I had two seniors at the time. So I'm like, have I literally lost my mind? I was like, I didn't see a growth even option there. And just from, then I started to realize that maybe my mental health might be slightly compromised at this point. So anyway, again, another organic situation, and got introduced to Brian. But anyway, I know I'm jumping ahead, but that's a big story in a nutshell. So now where we are with our team is it is Emily, Thomas, and I, and then Angie, how many of you met her? She's an amazing agent. The three of us now, Stacy was an individual agent when I, had a firm. So now I'm growing a team again. So she's not on the team, but she's with Choice. So we are looking to grow. So if anyone is interested, we are hiring. We have another team member that'll be joining us in January. So stay tuned.
How exciting. And I know you hit on a number of these. Angie was at business planning. I saw her yesterday. So I'm probably going to encourage you to repeat a few things, but I would love to know kind of how you promote your team. When you're speaking to someone, how would you explain your unique value proposition? Is it the focus on mentorship? Is it the community involvement? I'm sure it's kind of all of the above, but I'd love to know in your own words what that looks like.
Yeah. Well, we a group of people, we're passionate, about truly, that's where we take that fiduciary responsibility, about serving, others. So that's clients, and providing amazing service and, high level service, and then community involvement. We also want to support our community where we all work and live, and, make sure to give back. And then, just be impactful and make a difference, so we're just looking for people that have, energetic and, hearts to serve and want to, be on a team and collaborate, and also have like a work family. And, so it's also, important to me also to, that God first, family second, and business, and just make sure that people feel supported.
Yeah. And I know we talked about this a little bit ago, but when you come from a place of mentorship and you come from a place of just knowing like, hey, I would just want to be in your corner. I see immense potential in you. You already are an amazing person. I think if I was in your corner, like we could get you there faster and you could help me get to where I want to be faster. And it's not going into it with any expectation. It's not going into it from a place of like taking. It's more going from a place of giving. And anytime that happens, it just your results just come naturally tenfold. So props to you for getting in there that same way. So we talked about it a little bit. We talked about Zillow. We've talked about networking. I'd love to talk about lead generation a little bit more. Obviously, your personal lead generation has evolved over the years from internet leads to networking. We talked about this before, but I'd love for you to kind of share it with them of when you started realizing that networking was a passion of yours. Obviously, you made the ask at random places when people see you on your computer, right? So just being open and putting that energy out there that you're willing to start conversations and network where you are already. But I'd love to know, did you intentionally find opportunities to put yourself in positions where you are networking, whether that's a networking group or whether that's creating groups or whether that's attending Super Bowl parties and being like, I'm going to network and they don't know it, but my goal is to have 3 conversations. Like what is networking to you? And then what does lead generation authentic to other people's strengths look like depending on their personality?
Okay. And yes, definitely let me know if I don't answer everything, correct. You're not
A
necessarily
lot of
correct.
questions.
If I miss something. Yeah, yeah. So networking, so currently I'm in 3 groups and very intentional about it. So, and networking, I have learned of some networking platforms that didn't work for me. So for instance, I am, with Apex Chamber of Commerce, and help out with them a lot. I'm on their board of directors and then also help out with their community outreach committee. So I've really enjoyed that, especially living in Apex myself. So to really, pour in to the community. And then also I'm a part of a small group that was created by some gentlemen and they invited me to join. And so it's like 10 of us and, just very, experienced, individuals that, are really, just intentional about, their crafts and, giving great service. So, any referrals and the group's great. We meet together like once a month, we have lunch and everyone just kind of talks about their business in a very like natural, authentic manner. So when I say that too, I realized the option that didn't work for me, but some people it does work. So not to down it, but I was in the BNI group for a little while and that did not work because it just was a lot. You meet every week and then also you have a lot of roles that you add on. And so it just became not like a true authentic networking environment that, I could just see it wasn't, a good fit for me. And also I hold myself accountable. I thought I'm not going to be a good member because, some of these admin things that I do afterwards and this and that and coming in early. And then anyway, I realized that was not my thing because it was a little too forced for me with all of the responsibilities. But I know it can really be great for, a lot of people, especially when you're first like new in a business too. And then another group I was invited into is Goal Friends. So it's a group of ladies, and we've been together for about 3 years. And we just meet, we were meeting about once a month too. We need to get back together though, but we just, really push each other and our goals and like really digging deep and things like that. So that's been a really fun group as well. So those are the just a few that I'm involved in now. And then of course, just general networking, if you meet people, you'll meet up and, maybe have a coffee or meet up for a drink or something, or just whatever works, just to kind of like really get to know each other. And then as far as lead gen, is that was one of the other questions. And then as far as other, so we do meet as far as a team once a week and we'll do lead gen. And so it'll be from like 10 to 11 on a Wednesday before we have a team meeting. And we'll usually circle prospect an area if we have a listing, open houses and things like that. And, we'll just kind of talk in general, like you said before, like your goal is to get an appointment, a home valuation, or also just to, get the home sold, so they know of friends or family. So, and that really has gone well. So we all just kind of feed off each other. We do have the general, idea of what to say, but, I think it's just best to speak to someone as, one human being to another, and they're not going to hang up on you. Oftentimes they might, but that's okay, So, and we do that as well. And then, yeah, as far as, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and some things are daunting, but sometimes it's good to get out of your your comfort zone. And that's why we do that like once a week. But obviously doing that every day for everyone would be torture, that would not be fun. So we just figure out, what's going to be best for each person. And that just takes time getting to know them. I mean, I'll say Angie, she's a networker. She loves it. So, and she's, that's where we also, when we brainstorm, she's brought so many ideas and values. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as things to do. And then, like Emily B, she's not a networker. So her thing is totally different, so it's just, working in that direction. And she likes to do a lot of like email lead gen and, texting and things like that. Well, that works too.
It's just so important to know what works for you and to also not feel any shame about that, right? Like I can network, but I also hate surface level conversations. And so if I'm in my zone, I can go to one of those and kill it, but 9 times out of 10, I'm like, okay, let me find my one person I want to talk to.
No,
And I'm just gonna kind of stand over here and like, I don't know about that. It's not my idea.
right.
It feels very draining to me. So
Yeah,
if it works for other people, don't feel shame if it doesn't work for you because we're all
right.
designed differently and that's fine. Um,
Totally.
we know what circle prospecting is, but for those that don't, will you explain what circle prospecting is? And will you give an example of one of the times where you guys have done that, whether it's a listing that you had or an open house you're promoting? What was the event that you were calling on behalf of or using as your reason? And then what was a sample script, if you don't mind? Obviously, making it very human, and that would depend, but kind of the baseline of what you were going for there.
Oh, sure. Let's see. I'll just come up with one offhand and then yeah, feel free to, if you
Yeah.
have anything to think of. We had actually it was we don't really do that many rentals, but Angie does support a lot of investors. So I had a client that she was interested in not selling her home because she didn't know if they were going to move fully or not. And so she wanted to rent it for a little bit. So we were helping her there. So we were contacting the neighborhood then to see if we could help other people sell their home, not just, rent their homes, because that's more of our, specialty. So we utilized Mojo to get the phone numbers, scrubbed through the, DNC, do not call, list to make sure we didn't get any violations there. And so our script basically was to call and say, a very basic, do you want a free home, valuation? We're just reaching out to neighbors. We have a listing in your neighborhood currently, and just wanted to see if that might be of interest and how we can help. And so yeah, we had a gentleman, and he was like, "Oh, it's free?" I was like, "Yeah." So anyway, so we had a listing appointment with him, and so anyway, it does work. It really does. It's just one of those things that it's not a joy to make those calls, because you do get hung up. People don't want to get a million calls all day. So I don't know. Can you think of another example?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've done so many. Like whenever we have a listing somewhere, or for that matter, if we have a buyer
A buyer
that's
need.
truly interested in just like a specific neighborhood, because like the school systems here are so like up and down with, you know, between communities. Like Cary is very different from Raleigh, which is very different from Durham. And so people are like, I want to live in this neighborhood because my best friend lives here and it's in this school district. And so we'll be like, okay, so I'll go in and I'll pull a list, and we'll make those calls and just say, like, we have a buyer that's interested in moving to a home in your neighborhood. If have you thought of selling? You know anybody that's thought of selling? If you do hear of it, please give us a call back. It's a very exclusive thing for them. They only want to be in this neighborhood. And we might follow that up with a postcard or a letter or flyer. But I think with the script, we found the first couple years when we would write out a script, it felt so impersonal, and
Yeah.
we got hung up on a lot more.
And it's awkward, even for yourself. Yeah. So
Like just like, I mean, it's hard because it's like you want to get comfortable with talking to people when they pick up the phone, and it's an awkward thing in general to be doing. But having a script, I think, makes it feel really like
if you're
sterile.
going like word by word,
Yeah.
they can hear it and they just hang up. Yeah. Well, and then remember your friends, that's where they did have that, a couple of
Yeah.
neighborhoods, and we had, I had a couple that called me back, and they were like, yeah, we're actually thinking of listing, like, and we discussed it. They didn't end up being the right fit, but that literally could have been a match made right there.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a valid point, right? When we think of scripting, we think of literally reading from a script, when in reality it is, what is the purpose here that I'm trying to convey? What is the reason I'm calling them? And how can I internalize that so when I'm talking to them, it gets the point across, but it does it in my words and they feel human too. Because
And
to your
what
point, like
value.
if they feel it, then if we feel it, they definitely feel it, So
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Because there's been oftentimes too, where, if we did have an open house and like, hey, too, if you have any friends that are looking to, join your neighborhood, like let us know type thing. And then we've even had people looking to like, well, I don't, but I kind of like interested in investing. Can you guys help me? And we're like, yeah, stop by the open house. Let's chat.
yeah, it's all about a foot in the door. And neighborhoods are so tight knit, to your point. It's like, just let me know. Like, please, we've got someone that only wants to be here or we've got a listing, even if it's a renter. Like we've got an investor that is looking for a renter. Like, do you have friends looking to move here? They're likely the first ones that know that. So awesome. I want to change gears slightly. I know community involvement is huge for you guys, and you do it very regularly. Will you speak to what that looks like? Like, what charities have you worked with? Was it something, first of all, was this an intentional move? Was it something you did once and you're like, wow, this really feeds my soul? Was it a strategic move? And then, yeah, what does community involvement look like to you guys as a team?
I definitely think we could both speak on this. So, we realized, so we have an event every quarter first. So it kind of started there. So we're like, why wouldn't we have also like tie in some type of a charity that we can support through this event? Because, others want to help, in other directions. So that was kind of an intro. And then we also took it a bit further. Like we want to make sure we're doing something more intentional too. So like we started, around this time every year, helping out with, let's say, Interact. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that organization. It's supports people that are going through like domestic violence and things like that. And so we would go and like serve for like help, like put together gifts for like families and stuff like that, and just have like a few hours where we were just like, truly like helping get stuff together. And so we've done things like that. Western Wake, that's right here. We've collected food drives, for some of our events as well. And then yeah, if you want to pick up too about with Zach's Toy Chest is one we love to support. It's a local nonprofit where they collect toys and things for children that are, in the hospital and going through things. And then Emily just partnered with a charity that we're going to be collecting for our Cookies with Santa event this Sunday. If you want to tell them about that one.
Yeah. So this particular charity, this just like fell into my lap, and it's actually like a Facebook group that I was invited to by somebody that I go to church with, and it's called the Underground Railroad, and it's basically just helping families who are experiencing food insecurity and homelessness, because the system is just so overrun with requests. It's kind of like, who can help these people get a night in a hotel before they can move into their affordable housing, like who can send coats to this, child who like really needs like winter clothing, boots, gloves, it's just kind of like community helping community. And so they do a toy drive every year. And so we're actually doing that for our Cookies with Santa. We're going to be collecting very gently used and new toys, and bikes as well, because every kid, should get a bike for Christmas at least once in their life. So we're going to be doing that, which I'm really excited about. And it's actually based out of Lillington, but that area is growing so much, and so many people are moving, from this concentrated area out to those places, as we all know, because it's more affordable. And so, it's nice to have our reach be across, a circumference of where we are. And not just right here, because we do so much like locally for Apex. So it's nice to kind of branch out and reach them. And they really do have such a need for help. But it's just finding those things. And we've done stuff for like breast cancer research. We did an event with Kendra Scott where they donated a portion. And then we did, I made some notes here, Peak Beginnings out of Apex. That's charity that helps kids who are in need at Apex schools, food bank, Western Weight Crisis, the Red Cross, Toys for Tots. I feel like I'm forgetting some of them, but I feel like the ones that we've done the most with have been Interact. We try to do something with them once a year. And then Zach's Toy Chest, of course, because we love to support Holly. So Yeah.
And the thing that I love about, I mean, I love everything about this, but one of the things that I really love is I think as agents, we feel so much pressure to put on events for our clients. And so as soon as we start talking about charity work, it feels like it's another event that we need to plan when in reality, like bridging those two worlds packs
Yeah.
such a punch, not just for our schedule, let's be real, but also
Yeah.
because to your point, other people want to be involved, but finding ways to tap in as an individual can be so difficult. So I love that you give your people an opportunity to, interact with
A
meaning and
one-stop
to
shop.
reconnect with
Like
you.
you can
Yeah.
bring your donations to us and get your picture taken with Santa and have some hot cocoa. And it's like all done for you right there. I mean,
I know.
like,
It does make
What
it.
more could you want?
yeah.
Well, so that all is great. I think on a tangible level, even if it is a one-stop shop, but that can be overwhelming. Emily, would you mind sharing how you make all of that happen? I'm sure by now you have quite a system, but is it like a checklist that you have? Do you kind of copy and paste and like just clear it and make it for whatever your next event is? How do you make it all
It,
happen? On also not just in planning, but in like what are your touch points with clients about all of it too? Because
yeah.
that is a big part of it.
Mhm.
So to answer
True.
the first part of your question, it totally depends on the event. Like our pumpkin patch that we've been doing for forever runs like a well-oiled machine. I mean,
Mhm.
there's always with an event, I think it's important to remember there's always something that's going to go wrong. Like that, it's not going to be perfect. Like that doesn't exist. That's not a thing. Like something's going to happen, and you just have to be like, don't be like, anxious about it, but just know, like, know that it's not going to be perfect. Like something will happen that'll be challenging. But like our pumpkin patch event, we do that every year. I have like a whole itinerary set up that I've saved, and every year we change something, and we're like, we have a meeting after the event, and we're like, what worked, what didn't work,
Right.
like what do we need to do to make it even better next year? And I think it's just being open-minded and knowing that like we're not perfect and like things change. And so we just have to like adapt and like, go with the flow. Which is hard when you're not a go with the flow person. 'Cause I'm not go with the flow, but I've learned. And so I think I'm super like I make lists, I make checklists, very organized because I have to be to like stay sane. So I think that helps a lot. And then, with our cookies with Santa event this year, um, I feel like I've learned a lot there. Last year we was our first year doing it, and we did it at a venue. And so they took care of like all the food and beverage. And this year I've been doing the food and beverage. And I'm like, okay, this is what not to do. This is what to do. Like was like, I'm gonna serve hot chocolate. And so I bought like a hot beverage dispenser, and I was like, let me just check it to make sure that it works. So I tried it last night, and my husband are like sitting by the fire, like drinking this hot chocolate. And then I pour the dispenser out, and it's burnt. The hot chocolate has burnt through like the whole bottom of it. I'm like, okay, we're doing hot chocolate packets and hot water. Glad I tried it. So just like, that's part of the process is just, figuring out like your best practices, notating them, taking notes every year of what worked and what didn't, and then making your checklists and like following through on delegating too. You don't have to do it all yourself. Delegating is a big one.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess for clients, we do a monthly newsletter. And so I put that together, and I'll include any upcoming events that we have. And then we always do our invitations through paperless post. So I will send a text to all the agents and say, hey, this is the link for the event. You can share this. This could be lead gen this week. Reach out to some people, say, hey, this is what we're doing. If we're not posting it on social media, definitely like more emails, more personal touches, you know, those types of things. But if
Text,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, and text, but if it's private, then, or if it's public and we're posting on social media, I'm putting it on the Apex Chamber of Calendar, or Apex Chamber of Commerce's calendar. I'm putting it on our Instagram link tree. I'm putting it on Facebook. I'm putting it on Instagram. Like I am like posting about it like every other day. So just like trying to stay in people's faces. And that definitely, I mean, with our pumpkin patch, that definitely makes a difference,
Oh,
because we've
definitely.
seen such an increase in attendance every year, and we are getting leads from it. Like, people are like, oh, I saw it on Instagram and I actually like want to sell my house in the new year. And like, I mean, that's great. That's what you want. So
Yeah.
Right. Well, I love that you say that it's ever evolving, because I think it's so
Oh,
easy for us to spin out and be like, this isn't working. Nothing is
right.
forever. We can do it differently next year. We can
yeah,
scrap it all together. I can
Exactly.
decide that I am not a caterer. I can hire that out. I can
no,
make sure
it's,
I find a venue with it, right? All of those
yeah, I
things.
mean, well, I think it's, it's just like stopping and taking a breath, and um not being afraid to ask for help, but also just keeping that like organizational component to it, and keeping your checklists like in front of you at all times so you don't forget anything.
Well, we have a funny, so last year's pumpkin patch, and this is where too, I guess one of the things with our team and our mantra is like, grace for others, grace for self,
Absolutely.
you gotta keep that in mind. So, but yeah, last year we had these tickets and it was like, okay, you could go to the concession area and the ticket, you could get like these donuts they made and hot cider. Well, for some reason, they had like, I don't know, it was just some younger kids that were working the concession area, and they thought that we had to stick to a dollar amount. They were giving our clients back money if they didn't utilize the donuts and the cider. So they'd be like, oh, okay, well, yeah, here you get $4 back. And so one of
It was my
her
husband.
husband told us, he was like, I just got money back. We're like, okay, yeah, no, we need to go
So
fix
I'm
that.
like marching over there. I'm like, excuse me, who's in charge? What is
Like,
happening?
how are my clients literally making money off of this?
How are they making money here?
That was a good one. So thank heavens he didn't
Yeah.
answer that. We
So
were able
yes,
to, stop giving money away for the entire
I
event. But
mean,
they did get pumpkins too
yeah.
and snacks.
So we made sure to make note of that last year, and discuss that this year with the owner of Pumpkin Patch, and make sure that didn't happen this year.
It's so funny now, but yeah, so exactly. They don't always like, but it really is. It's something that, we have some that we do, that are really annual things that, people look forward to. And some, we've changed it up too. So
Yeah.
anyway, but we've enjoyed it. And then, we do like to help out with the teachers, and we do like help out with the teacher event with the chamber. And then Emily does like a teacher drive like right
Mhm.
around the beginning of school, and we, donate to a classroom, stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's
that's been
fun.
really fun.
Yeah, I love
Yeah, I
how
love how
you're
you're
mentioning,
mentioning.
oh, I'm echoing a little bit. I don't know who it is. I love how you're mentioning doing an audit after everything just to see what works and what doesn't. And I'm going to sound like a complete hippie about this for a minute, but I've tried to get in the habit of not only doing that, but doing like a nervous system check during and after. Like, how did I
Oh, yeah.
feel like within my body? Was I
Yeah.
completely spinning out? What would make me not do this? Like, I'm headed to an event where I have to fly into it, and I was booking my flights, and they've got a group pickup for the event at like 1 p.m. from the airport. And
Wow.
there were no flights that would land before that except for one that would land at 12:55, and my
Oh,
layover to get to that flight is an hour. And I'm like, I'm gonna fly in
Wow.
a day early. I'll just book a hotel because I know like I will
Yeah.
be freaking out on my first plane if we get
Mhm.
delayed. I'm gonna be running through the airport. I'm gonna be so frustrated that I've missed the intro ceremony or whatever. And
Yeah.
so just doing those quick audits of like, what can I do proactively? Where do I know if something were to happen, it would really stress me out? And what little step or big step can I take to avoid that? Or what can I scrap so that that doesn't happen? So
and
anyway,
sometimes that's like,
That's great.
that's great, but you don't know it until you've done it one time.
You go through the pain a little
So
bit.
I
it's
know
like
that after running through the airport a
grace
few times,
upon
right?
grace upon grace,
Yeah.
and organization. Those are my two things.
Also, you are obviously the organization and systems queen. I'd love to kind of finish us out real quick by you talking about, are there any other systems that you absolutely swear by that you've created and that you would love to share?
Well, I don't want to give away all of our secrets,
Totally.
but I think using, stuff that you have access to, that you can share, platforms that you can share with your team, and finding out what is it and what's annoying for them to have to ask you for all the time. Like, you know, I need to get to the GIS so that I can look up the septic for this property because the owner, we need it for listing the property, whatever. So making a place where all of those things that they need, like in a pinch, they can just go straight there. So whether it's the GIS, whether it's the county website, whether it's the login to like our offers email, because we have an email just for offers, whether it's like instructions on how to use Mojo, which is what we use for lead generation, instructions on how to make a Canva post. Like I just try to create things that make their lives easier, and then have it all in a place that is easily accessible for them. So doing that, I think has helped everybody feel more organized. And
Yes.
it's like, it's funny because they'll go to ask me something and then they'll stop and they're like, it's in the reference doc. And they'll just like go over and like go to it because they know I'm going to be like, it's in the reference doc.
Yeah,
Yeah.
training the people that are in your corner to be self-servicing, right? And
Ex-
providing them those
Well,
resources.
and I'm
If
here,
you,
like, I'm always here to help, but it's like, what if I'm not, like I have limited hours. So it's like outside of those hours, like, what if I can't respond? What are they going to do? So it's great to have a place, where people can go to, get those things answered quickly.
the other side, those of us that, function on agent brain and, can fly by the seat of our pants and drive, hair insane. So it does help. And yeah, the reference docs, I have to say, it has been helpful. And yeah, they'll be like, oh, that's where it is. Oh, yeah, yep, okay, yep, got it.
Loom is my best friend. If anyone has emailed me
Yes,
about anything, or
yeah,
if I'm training someone on something, it is a document with 20 Loom videos, and I am just screen recording what I'm doing because,
love it.
first of all, me typing it out is going to take way longer than me telling you, and if I type it out, you're going to still be confused. So I love that. And we did
Yeah,
the
I
same
love
thing
it.
for choice with systems. We use Monday.com, and that's how all of us communicate because before
Awesome.
then we would have an email about every agent or agent prospect, and
Mhm.
if that gets buried or if you didn't read it or whatever,
Yeah,
and and so for then that was a bottleneck that we had was onboarding would be where can we communicate, and then if you create a system where it's one easy note and everyone gets notified, that completely takes away that bottleneck. And it's incredible how as soon as you solve things for yourself, it just allows everything else to flow in a much bigger way because first of all, your energy isn't worried about it, and it makes everyone else easier. Anything
exactly.
else you guys want to add to that note real quick as we finish it out?
Um, I can't think of anything else. I just say, yeah, I mean, I know our industry, it's always evolving and it's very busy and no day is the same and you're never stop learning. So anyway, yeah, we definitely love it. And if there's any way we can help anybody, and we're very thrilled to be part of the Choice family now.
And I know you mentioned your growth with Emily and your growth with the team, and then just in most of those were kind of stumbling into the right situation and being in the right room with the right people at the right time. And that's the same way you got brought here to Choice. And I heard a quote recently that I wanted to kind of finish us with, which was just an analogy to a bridge, right? Like if you're standing on one side of a bridge and you draw it, right? Like there's that hump in the middle, and you can be standing on one side and you know that you need to go over it. You know that where you are right now will not work any longer and that you need to head somewhere else, but you can't see the other side because of this hump that's in the way. And if you can't see it, that can so quickly like cause you to stay where you are because of the unknown. But so often it's just one step at a time. And once you cross it, then you realize that everything else fell into place. And so props to you guys for continuing to take those steps because that's so often how leverage feels. And so if anyone needs a little encouragement, just know that's so normal. I think all of us struggle with that. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not greater on the other side. So
That's
awesome
so
job
true.
growing it.
Well, we do like our dream boards every year. And so every year there's like a theme. And so my theme for 2024 was the serenity prayer. So it kind of ties into what you're saying, accept the things you cannot change, and the wisdom to know, the difference of the things that you can change and strength for that. So absolutely.
Well, thank you both so much for your time. Thank you for sharing everything with us. Thanks for your energy. It's impressive to see everything you've done, and we are so excited to have you here. Cheers to continued growth, and we can't wait to see what you guys do next. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you. Best
Thank
wishes,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
ladies.